Welcome everyone to the weekly marketing happy hour, where we give you all the news and views that you can use in marketing and have some lively discussions where we are not afraid to tackle some of the marketing craziness that exists out there online and offline. I am one of your hosts, Dr. Christopher Vogelmann of drvogelmann.com. 2 N's because we paid extra for those at Ellis Island. And also of our digital agency, Maximize Your Media. And with us today by mobile phone, because he didn't want to be alone, is...
That's not it. Hey,
He's giving us seasickness.
Yes, I know. I'm gonna fix that in a minute. Gonna fix it. Yeah, so
this is my seasickness.
So I know, right? So I'm John Paduchak, video marketing expert. And of course, we have the great group online local marketing strategies. So come check us out there.
And let's go to the one who came with us a little earlier, the man from Lake Erie.
Hey guys, what's up? I am Kam Jennings from Ohio, and I run a site called epicconversions.com, digital publishing company, and I'm happy to be here today. Thanks for having me, guys.
And your podcast.
Yeah, and I got a podcast called One Step Away.
I like that, One Step Away. And with us from British Columbia is...
Yes, it is a beautiful day today here at British Columbia. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Kayvon.
My name is Kayvon. I am a simplifier from simplify.zone. What I do is I coach entrepreneurs, overworked entrepreneurs, to become effective entrepreneurs. And I thought to mention a project that I'm working on. Soon I will be launching a group coaching program called the Implementation Club, because it's all about implementation, isn't it?
I see. Implementation Club.
Yeah, no doubt.
Hey, with simplify.zone, you'll never be alone.
Thank you.
Yeah, no charge.
No charge. Yeah, with simplify.zone, you'll never be alone.
There you go.
Sounds like a dating service, but yes, okay.
Hey. Hey, speaking of dating, people often want to make a love connection, but we're talking about today about making connections with our prospects as well as our existing customers, clients, patients, whatever. And so I thought we'd just start off a conversation about the importance of connection. And I framed it in about, not dealing with so much the big lie, but dealing with the big why. Why are we trying to connect with prospects? What are our values, and why do we really want to get a hold of them and get their attention? And is our intention good or bad? And do we ever question why we do what we do? So anybody want to jump in?
Yeah, I got things to say about that for sure. I tell you what, I think that like in the launch space, like when people talk about this idea of launching digital products in internet marketing space, everyone comes in with the best of intentions, and people want
to. But do they? That's the question.
Well, yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Maybe some people just come in with nefarious intentions. But
they just want to make money. I mean, I hear that a lot.
They just want to make money. But for the most part, people want to make money in an ethical way when they first get here. And then what happens is, they start making money, and you start to see that money roll in, and you start to get opportunities coming your way, and things start happening. All of a sudden, some of the bigger connections you make with other entrepreneurs, man, everyone's got different ideas about what ethical is and what moral is. And it doesn't take that long before you have to draw a line in the sand with what you're okay with and what you're not okay with. And sometimes if you're not okay with something, you're going to burn bridges with other people who could help you make a lot more money. So then I think it becomes difficult for people. So that's what I found.
It reminds me, do you sell your soul for rock and roll?
Exactly. Yeah. That's it, really. It's a simple little cliche there in a nutshell. But yeah,
I'm full of cliches.
Well, it's crazy, I mean, it's not something that's obvious for people who are just getting started and they've never made any money. It seems like the most simple thing in the world to do the right thing.
Mhm.
But when you learned, let's say you're just getting started with your online business, and you learn from certain people, right? You learn from certain people, you look up to those people. They taught you things, they taught you how to make money. Now all of a sudden you're in this position of influence where you can actually partner with those people. You can, do business with those people in a way to make everyone more money. And you figure out, wow, I really don't agree with that practice that you have over there of doing this particular thing or that particular thing. So you end up in this position where you have to say something about it. It's like, dude, I don't agree with that. So I'm going to have to say, no, it's a pass for me. I don't agree with what you do here.
Mhm.
I mean, and that's going to ruin that relationship for at least a little while. I mean, everyone likes money, so you'll probably make up in a couple years and maybe figure something out. But for a little while, it's trash. Does that make sense, or am I going too rambly there?
No, it makes perfect sense. I mean, it may be something that's against our values and moral compass, when we run into people, and at the end of the day, we want to do the right thing. And, networking is a way of life for us. It's all about who really in business, right?
Yeah, and I think it's tough when everyone has a different version of what the right thing is.
Yeah.
That's where it gets tough.
Very tough.
I remember I'm full of Post-it notes today, where usually I'm full of something else. But for me, it was about, enslavement, being truly helpful to people, or enslaving them and kind of making them your forever client. And I think the real difference is one of having that attitude of scarcity versus abundance.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I have definitely had some relationships with people online where you start after a while to feel like you're enslaved. You start to feel like they're trying to dig into your intellectual property in a lot of ways, and that's not fun. That's not a great relationship to have with people. And at the end of the day, we want to do the right things for potential clients and customers, and really the right thing for everybody. We want it to be a win-win for everyone.
So, Kayvon, when you are discussing with your clients in simplify.zone, what do you talk about with respect to the why and to your intention in connecting with people online?
Yeah, I like what Kam said earlier, as in many of us get into things without really knowing what is our definition of doing the right thing, or what sorts of relationship do we want. Because I still remember many relationships, either personal or business, that was all about take. And, you give them the benefit of the doubt once or twice, but after that, you know what? I'm just going to cut this off right here, and we're going to go our separate ways. Good luck with your methods. It's not just for me. So I'm going to share a little story which helped me about on this topic of what is the right thing to do. Then share what my philosophy is on that. So the story is, many years ago, I was flipping through channels on TV. What's here, what's next. And then this show came up. I don't know what TV show or movie it was, but it was one of those medieval shows that soldiers were fighting with swords and that sort of thing. So at one point, that higher ranked person, the trainer, gathered all of the young soldiers and mentioned, okay, remember, you have to remember our credo, our value system are these three things: family, duty, honor. And I had to pause there. Really? In that order? Right? Because guess what? If family comes first, and you have some sibling, it's the terrible person, some dictators or something. Okay, sorry, brother, family comes first. Let's go, do all of those things that they are not the right thing to do. Because guess what? Family comes first. And after that, in that version of duty, which is you just follow blindly and all of that. And the funny thing for me was honor, which is actually about thinking and doing the right things, and should I or shouldn't I, comes last. And with the other two at the beginning, we never get to that one. There is never a turn for that one. So I would reverse the order. So I find this going from end to beginning a common pattern that shows up in many places. Actually, is one of the ways to simplify things, because we experience it from beginning to end, but it actually needs to be created from end to beginning. So the reverse order. So the way that I clarify which kind of relationship that I want to have, and this is specifically for clients, but also applies to, let's say, partnerships and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
I picked a list of industries that I won't work with because I think those are not positive industries. So, the usual, I don't do porn, gambling, guns, politics, religion, alcohol, drugs, all of that. There is a list of the things that I don't think they are contributing in a positive way or majorly positive way, because there is no such thing as pure evil or pure, positive. Just which side, in my personal opinion, the balance is heavier. So I just say, what, sorry, if you're in those industries, if I'm not going to fight you, at least I'm not going to help you. I like to work with small businesses, people who are trying to run a business and serve their clients and make the world a better place in their own, even if it's their own small circle, that environment is that is their world. I like to work with these people and assist them and make those people stronger as opposed to spend time and energy fighting the other ones. So I hope that makes sense.
Do you think that comes from the fact that you trained in medicine or no?
I think a lot of my clear thinking, clarity thinking came from that. I specifically remember moments of being trained for that. So one of my mentors, he like two things that comes to my mind right now that I learned from him. One was that he was a surgeon, and he was always talking about never make a small opening for your surgery. Go as big and as wide as it's possible, because you want to open it up and really look at it. Trying to go through a small hole and all of that, you can't really evaluate the problem. And another one was the way we speak and communicate. He had a list of words that we were not allowed to use in communication, like seems, maybe, possibly, that kind of thing. You got to tell me, possibly there is pain on the right side of the stomach. That doesn't help me. Is there pain or isn't there? Because if it isn't, I'm not going to do anything. If there is, I'm going to open it up and go in. So make, do your precise work, find out what's going on, and communicate that clearly to your colleague.
To colleagues, I was just thinking, but not necessarily to relatives of the patient.
Well, again, the same thing. The thing that the part of the job of a doctor is that has to be informing the patient. That has to be clear and precise, and all of that too, for the sake of their decision making, for the sake of they go into downward spiral of being worried and this and that. You're there to lead the whole process and serve everyone with clarity and decisiveness and preciseness and that sort of thing.
So when it comes to clarity, John or Kam, do you have any particular concerns or ideas about what it takes to connect with a potential prospect or to maintain a connection with your existing folks?
John, go ahead, man.
All right. Well, I think anytime you're connecting with anybody and you have any intention in mind, it's important to be as clear and transparent as possible. So, clarity is incredibly important because, you just want to make sure that your message is totally heard and that there's no discrepancies in it. So, clarity is hugely important.
Yeah, that's well said, man. And on the back of that, I would just add, from my standpoint, after doing this for several years, I've noticed that no one else cares about what I'm doing as much as I do, right? So it's very easy to fall when I'm sending messages out there to my audience or my email list or people in my scope of influence. When I'm sending messages out there to them, it's so easy to fall into this trap of thinking that everybody gets it. I've already sent one message out on this special sale that I'm doing, thinking I don't need to go into the details of that sale anymore or whatever. But no one is really paying attention to what I'm doing, not like I am. So I think it's important to I don't want to say be repetitive, but in your messaging, make sure all your messaging is, putting it all in there every single time, really, because it's just like people aren't paying attention. They're not even going to see all your messages. It's going to be like you'll get maximum conversion if you can just be fairly repetitive with your message. Not repetitive from the standpoint of angles, but repetitive from the standpoint of just the actual thing that's happening, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm so rambly tonight. Sorry,
No,
guys.
actually, it does make complete sense. I was reading Don Miller's book, Material, and he says something I really like. He said, because when we look at marketing as an activity that it's there for us to get a chance to serve our clients, strategy of preeminence, it is our job to do our best to communicate our message to our audience. So yes, from many different angles and all of that. And what Don Miller said was marketing or messaging is an exercise in memory, as in you have to repeat it over and over until people remember it, because nobody's going to remember something that you said once. We think because we know it, as you said, we care about it, it's our world, we think we know it, but they don't. We say it once, they might glance over it or not really get it. So by keep repeating it, we put this in their memory, and they will remember. We become rememberable and remarkable, and coming from various different angles helps them to have a better understanding. And also, as you said, sometimes they don't see all of our messages. So if we send it out 5 times, there are more chances for them to see this. And if it's done with the intention of serving our clients, then we take all of the chances that we can get.
Yeah, and on top of that, look, I mean, there's a I'm not a psychologist, but like there is definitely a psychological element to it, right? Like the more I send a message out there, the more I say something, the more I start to feel like I'm repeating myself. And there's a psychological subconscious element to it where my messages if I'm not careful, my messages start getting shorter. They start explaining less. They start being less informative. They start being just not as good as they were in the beginning, because I feel like, hey, you guys got it. This is just a quick reminder. But in truth, it just comes back to this idea of, hey, look, man, no one's paying attention to your messages like you are. So I don't know. There's a weird psychological element there. And I think changing the angles up does help with that a lot, because now you feel like, and you're coming at it from a new angle, you can really go in deep with this new angle, and it's, yeah, if that makes sense. Yeah, but yeah, for sure.
I just changed my angles, and that was actually pretty good.
Did it help?
It helped a lot. Well, what's interesting about that is I've seen a couple of marketers who in their emails, they'll actually put the entire text of a previous email. Like, in case you missed my email, here it is. And they have a beginning to it and the end of it. And that's actually a good shortcut for reminding people of what the original message was and making sure that you don't skip over things.
We learned the same thing in Toastmasters as well, as in repeating, that 3-step of tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them, and tell them what you just told them. Yep. And that's a good speech.
Nice.
Or so you told me.
Isn't it funny how things can be like, isn't it funny how like pretty complex subjects can sometimes be just like simplified down, almost like it's not even really that complicated. It's like we make it complicated somehow. We take simple things and make them really maybe it's just me who does that, but I'll take something simple and it will be really complicated by the end of the day.
I think the complication for a lot of people, if you can make the problem more detailed and more complicated, and then you offer a simple solution, you've basically taken somebody's pain, agitated it, expanded it into all the possible things that could go wrong. And then you offer a lot of times a complex solution to a simple problem, or you're giving them that simplicity. It's not as bad as you think. It's not your fault. It's, there's an easy way out.
That human tendency is why I have a business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you have to help people overcome things.
There is a psychological reason. Doesn't matter what culture, they have different versions of it, but every culture has this, that we think if something is not hard and painful and sweat and blood and tears, it must not be valuable. So I read a fantastic book. It was called Life Was Not Meant to Be a Struggle. So something, if it's not struggle, somehow it doesn't have enough value.
Mhm.
But look at, everything, the things that they're really simple. Do you guys remember that old infomercial of the rotisserie chicken? You set it and forget it.
Forget it.
Set it and forget it. There you go.
Set it and- So if we can set things to be simple like that in our life, then we don't have to worry about it. It goes away. Like, for example, setting it, forgetting it. I really didn't want to spend any time after 10:30 or so on Netflix or internet or any of that. So I bought myself one of those timer outlets.
Mhm.
So it turns off my router every night at 10 and
That's
turns
perfect.
it back on at 4:30 a.m. And
Nice.
between those times, the router is off. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to use willpower. It's just set it once, then forget it, and it just does it automatically. I'm watching Netflix or something, then boom, it goes up. Time to sleep.
Did you notice when you did that? Did you notice a difference? Were you like, holy cow, I didn't realize how much I was using that stuff? Like, did you notice the difference? Like
Right
that
away.
off time?
Right away. It was one of those holy beep moments.
Holy beep. Was that the
Yes.
Roadrunner? Would have been beep beep.
Beep, beep.
Oh man, that's how I am when I do sometimes I'll do like calorie counting, try to lose a little weight, and I'll do these calorie countings where I'll be trying to like eat certain times a day, right? And I will notice like right off the bat, like holy moly, I had no idea how much I was grazing. I was just like walking through here grabbing snacks and stuff,
My head in the refrigerator nonstop.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm going to the kitchen. Let me get something.
Yeah.
The hinges on the
My
refrigerator
jaw
broke.
is
I don't
tired
know
of chewing.
I discovered that when we were RVing in different places and we wouldn't have internet, and you'd be out someplace, and granted you're out there for a different reason, but just the same, you still have those certain habits of, at a certain time I kind of like to turn something on and maybe watch something on TV, and then you can't because you got no internet.
Or let me check to see what mountain lions like to eat.
I'll tell you guys this crazy story I just figured out today about connection, right? So like I have a Robinhood account. Like I'm not some kind of crazy I'm not really super into stock market stuff, but I dabble with stocks and stuff, trying to learn stock market stuff. And I had some some shares of GameStop, right? And this video game store, right? And I just logged on there to check it, and I saw like it was up like hundreds of %, right? I think they were like $4 a share for this stock, and now these shares are over like $350 a share. And I was like, what is happening? This is a failing video game company.
It's speculative. I'm a reformed day trader, so I can
Yeah.
talk to you offline about some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So here's what
do.
I don't know if you guys know. You guys might already know about this, but so I figured out today when I did a little research trying to figure out what's happening with this stock, and I figured out there's like this. They're calling them meme stocks. They're calling them meme stocks, and what it is like there's a group of people, a large community on Reddit that they just point their finger at a really low stock, and they all just run and grab it and invest in it. And it just starts driving the price up. And they've done it so far to several stocks. They did it to Kodak, and they did it to a couple other stocks, but now they've done it to GameStop. This drove the price through the roof. And I'm like, sorry, I got to sell my shares.
because
So it's like crowdsourcing, right?
Yeah.
I guess so. That's connection, though. Like, can you believe that, though? That a group of people on Reddit, just a giant group, can just boom, to just affect the stock market like that.
I can totally believe it because it's crowdsourcing demand is what it is.
Yes.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's just really wild, man. And that's the power of connection, I guess.
But it is, but the price to earnings ratio isn't there. So yeah, sell.
So,
It's gonna be.
So tell us, did you sell?
I sold today, man.
Yes,
I
good.
sold
Because
so
I'm
fast.
going to sell. It's not.
Because what am I gonna do, man? I'm just gonna wait to see how far it climbs, and then when it starts sinking, then sell. No one wants to buy it then.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor. Never check it again.
Yeah. I'm done, man.
True. It's true.
Yeah, it'll probably climb. Yeah, Kayvon, it's probably gonna climb to like $1,000 a share.
That's all right. You can't be greedy.
That's what I said, man. That's what I said, John. I said, you know what? Forget it, dude. I don't know anything about this meme stock stuff. I don't understand what's happening right now. These guys are on another thing right now. This is another planet that I'm not familiar with. I'm gonna go ahead and back out of this one. And yeah, man, I sold for sure. But
and that's extremely wise, you know. That method of thinking, if you can apply it to everything else in life, we're so much ahead. Like, this is exactly the same kind of thinking when I have a conversation with a client and we talk about outsourcing, right? Because we all outsource anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So many things. Look at around you. I didn't make this cup or this keyboard or this monitor because the fact that I purchased it is a form of outsourcing.
Mm-hmm.
Or I outsource my numbers work to an accountant. So some people think, no, I can't outsource anything. It's hard to explain. You know, people can't do a good job and that sort of thing. And my point is, no, we're all outsourcers. And there's this imaginary line that on the other side, we outsource everything. And on this side, I have to do everything myself. It's an imaginary line. Just move it to whatever you want. It's the same as you know, I'm done. I'm selling. Bye. I've done my thing.
Hey, even if people interview other people, that's basically outsourcing the experience.
Exactly.
You know, you don't know this particular topic, so you interview this person. Well, hey, you just outsourced the experience, didn't you? So, I mean,
well, you outsource content creation, really, because somebody else is creating content for you upon your invitation.
Right.
True.
Yeah.
Very, very true, man.
So when it comes to connection, what are some of the things? Are there any tips or tricks that any of you have for making a connection? I'm not talking about NLP or things like that, but are there anything that you look for in terms of how to create a deeper connection, or at least make the initial connection with a prospect?
For me personally, it's always asking questions and being interested in that person, because I find it goes back to Dale Carnegie, right? Like, I can make more friends in 2 months by being interested in other people than I can in 2 years by trying to make myself look interesting. So,
I agree. That's a good one. I think another good one that fits in with that well is be of service. So if you have friends or people that you like to connect with and they need help with something, you know, be of service. I connected with a friend of mine today who was working on a project of writing LinkedIn profiles for people, and I sat in and you know, anytime you provide good karma like that, you're going to get good karma back about 100 times.
Yes.
And it looked like you know, most of the group may become clients because I just did something good for somebody else.
that's awesome, man.
So it's pretty cool when that happens.
Yeah. Sending good karma out there and avoiding bad karmas.
Yeah.
And I follow that pattern of, if something is too good to be true, it's not. So that some people, their way of introducing themselves or showing up, or everything is too perfect, right? And I may not be able to put my finger on it, but yeah, this is, you know, normal people have, you know, ups and downs.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, there is I do believe in a certain vibratory frequency from subconscious to subconscious, and I've seen it work. A lot of people call it intuition, your gut feeling, or something like that. But a lot of times, despite the external signals, the gestures, the tone of voice, the eye contact, and everything else, something just doesn't feel right. And I have that sense numerous times with patients and with clients that no matter how good it looked on the surface, there was something kind of creepy in the background.
Yes.
We were talking about that today. Have you ever walked in a room after somebody's, you know, after somebody's just had an argument, or into a ballroom after there's been a big you know, like a big event or a wedding or something like that, or possibly, you know, like a memorial service, and you tune, whether you realize it or not, you're tuning into that feeling of whatever
it's frequencies.
Resonance is so important.
Yeah, that's funny that you guys talk about that, because I know I've seen several videos and case studies done. I've seen it done with plants, and I've seen it done with simple, like, bags of rice or jars of rice, where they take like 3 jars of rice and like they'd spend like a period of time saying nice things to this jar of rice.
Mhm.
They'd say nothing. This would be like the control jar, and nothing was said to this one. And then this one, they'd shout at it for a period of time.
Bad rice.
Have you guys seen anything about
Yeah,
that? And
I've
like,
seen it with the snowflakes and
water.
ice patterns and water patterns.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, that goes back to consciousness, and I think to a great extent, there's an awareness in all things,
There is.
and it's not without being woo-woo about it. I mean, just on an atomic level, an electron is attracted to a proton,
And there's
Yes.
even though they're made of the same stuff.
How about
Yeah.
how do you guys want to hack about that?
Eventually, or I don't know, we have time today. That's the question. But consciousness, awareness is interesting because, well, actually, we've got some time here. So when you look at consciousness, it exists in its most rudimentary forms as loves and hates, like an atomic level. Proton, electron, and they both are attracted to each other. And you see repulsion too. Magnets, where you have like poles pushing against each other. So there's something there that you can feel, and that was always a good demonstration. But then you move along, and then you'll find that plants are very adaptive, and the plant experiments are easier to comprehend. But there was one many years ago, I remember, where they put electrodes on plants, but then they tried to put electrodes on Jello, and they found out that they actually got signals from Jello, and our joke was that lime Jello lives.
no surprises there.
Now here, listen to this.
Yeah.
If you have a bunch of plants in your home, or even one, name one of your plants with the same first name that you have.
wow.
So when you take care of it, let's say Cam, you call your plant called Cam.
Yeah.
Hey, here's some water for you, Cam. I love you, Cam. You're looking good today,
great, man.
Cam.
That's
You know,
great.
you keep talking to that plant, which is called Cam, but guess what? Who else is also getting benefits from that hack?
I'm
Right.
getting benefits from it. My
So
brain is hearing
all
that
the love
stuff.
that you're giving to that plant.
Oh my God, dude, that's brilliant,
great.
man. That's brilliant.
Name every plant.
Yes.
That's so
And
good.
name one of them
man.
after yourself. Yes.
I'm going to name my phone Christopher.
Yeah.
You're so smart, Christopher. You're so helpful.
It might be a little weird. How are they going to know who I'm talking to if I call them by the same name?
Well, we eventually all end up talking to ourselves anyway, so we might
That's
as well.
There's that self-talk, the voice in your head all day long.
I know.
Well, you got to wonder if it all connects, like because you hear people saying, "Hey, you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most," and you got to wonder, well, if the people I'm hanging out with a lot, they have a higher energy level, just there's more positive or whatever, so that lifts me up to a more positive level because that's the environment I'm putting myself in.
Yes.
You got to wonder if it's all connected in some way with the plants and the water and the rice and the 5 people you hang out with. If this is all the same principle behind all this stuff,
With 5 pounds of rice you hang out with.
That's true.
yeah, exactly.
That's interesting because I often wonder about this being in the healthcare area, because at least 3 of us here have some healthcare experience, that if we're hanging around with sick people all day long, trying to help them attain a greater degree of health, is that dragging us down?
Mhm.
Well, there is some element to that like
There is.
towards the end of my internship,
Mhm.
that I called it holding up that emotional wall between myself and my client or patient at the time was becoming harder and harder. The empathy.
Yeah.
And granted, I was not in a good place in my life either. Right. So I was weaker, going through depression and more susceptible to all of that. But yeah, their pain was becoming my pain, and that sort of thing. So we have to be careful about that. So make sure that we celebrate the ones that they get better and they go out. So not always dealing with the darker side of it, but also with the happier side of it. In my daily sheet, when I'm closing my day, I ask myself these 2 questions. What went right today and how did I contribute? And what went wrong today and how did I contribute?
Yeah.
But the positive question, I ask it 5 times. The negative one, I ask it once.
Because we're wired for the negative. So.
Yes. So I'm balancing that out. Five
very
things that they went right and how did I contribute? And 1 thing that went wrong and how did I contribute?
Yeah, so you're connecting with your own subconscious as well as conscious mind. And you've got that wonderful neuroplasticity going on by emphasizing the stuff that went right.
Smart.
Well, and that brings up a good point because likewise, we don't want to surround ourselves with people who are negative because they bring us down in the same way. So you got to be very careful who you surround yourself with as well, because it affects your mood and how you're feeling and, your resonance as well. So
But doesn't that have to do also with the clients that you select to work with?
yeah, absolutely.
Or the clients who are attracted to you. If you have pretty good marketing in place, the clients are going to start coming to you.
Yeah.
So which ones are you pulling in? Are you pulling in the ones that resonate with you, or are you pulling in people who don't resonate with you? They shouldn't even be coming to you. Like, who did a good video on this was Frank Kern. He did a good video on this called Core Influence. You can find it on YouTube. People out there can find it on YouTube for free, but it's a really cool. It's pretty long. It's like over an hour, but it's talking about basically the gist of it is you figure out what your perfect average day is, right? And you figure out everything you do. You walk through the whole day and you figure all this out. But the basics of it is you're just trying to figure out like who your core self is. Not your job or not like who you are on the outside, but who are you on the inside? Like who are you really? And you figure this out, and those are the people that have the same kind of core influence. Those are the people who you're going to be able to influence and resonate and pull towards you in a positive way. And you're going to have good experiences with those people. So that was a really nice video, and it probably helped a lot of people.
Yeah, and those relationships, because they stay around longer, they keep paying dividends bigger and longer and all of that. Yeah.
And they relate to you, right? Like if you're like this inner rock star, but you grew up to be a banker, but inside, you're just the guy who just wants to play guitar and like surf or something. If you can put that person out in your marketing, if your marketing can kind of project the person you are inside, put yourself out there a little bit, then you're going to pull in the people you want to pull in and repel the people you don't want to pull in. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Isn't that a bit like aspirational marketing? But instead of showing a bunch of Lamborghinis, in your mansion, with the infinity pool, instead you're having fun. You're very upbeat. You love what you do, and you have an intense curiosity about people and a desire to help them. That's an attractive force to a lot of people, I think.
Very true.
Now I have a question. We were talking about making connections. So let's say we are paying attention to that, making the right connections and serving people and all of that. My question is, and I'd like to hear how you guys do this.
Yeah.
How do you know when you have done your job, when it's going right?
I mean, in a very crude way, they pull out the credit card and click buy.
Yeah, well, that's one of them.
That's one way.
Well, for me, I get more messaging back to me. That's not like more complaints and not like trouble with like tech support type stuff, and more like conversational type stuff. Like, dude, I really love this episode that you did of this, or I really love this course you did over here about this, and I'm getting like right now. I launched a new podcast. I'm not plugging it. It's like a cheap pitch or anything.
I plugged it for you at the beginning.
But I launched a new podcast in January, the beginning of this month, right? And it's like getting a lot of positive feedback. So to me, that tells me that I'm doing my job the right way with my core messaging for that podcast. It's on the right track, at least, and it's a young infancy of life, but so far it's doing pretty good. So I would say what you're getting back, Kayvon, that's for me. That's what I would say, man.
The feedback,
Yeah, I'm with you.
For me, I think it's you're not only getting the validation, but the person that you're working with has gotten the results and the transformation that they desired.
Yes.
That's really, to me, the key. So
Definitely.
Yeah. I still remember those moments that when I get a positive feedback from a client, or you get a text message out of nowhere, the work that we did about a year ago still pays off,
Yeah.
So my way of measuring it is I measure with either smiles on their faces or sparks in their eyes.
Yep.
You're gonna hear from me, Kayvon, because I'm gonna do that plant thing.
Oh, there you go.
Right.
Can you name one of your plants after me? Do it for both of us.
Avon the cactus.
Yeah, whatever. As long as I get some love, Cam love, I don't mind.
Yeah, man, connection's cool. It's important to be able to connect with people. There's no doubt about it. I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult. I think it's difficult when you're new for some reasons, and I think it's more difficult. And this is another side of it, right? After you've been doing it for a while, whatever you're doing, then it gets difficult again because maybe your core audience might need to shift a little bit because like when I first came into this business, my core audience was new people trying to make money online, trying to figure out how to start an online business. That was my core audience. And I realized as the years went by and the longer I had been doing it, the stuff I was talking about and the things that I was, getting into was becoming a little advanced for the new people.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, hey, there has to be a decision here. You're going to have to be careful about your training and your messaging when you're dealing with new people, or you're going to have to be conscious of the fact that this particular thing you're doing is not for the new people anymore. It's for a different group of people. So I think that it's wherever you're at in your business or whatever, sometimes your audience shifts. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
Your demographic shifts sometimes.
Or you have two separate tracks.
Yeah.
Also the different conversations with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't even realize you're aware of it. You're just being yourself. You're talking about the things that are interesting to you. You feel like everybody in this space will be interested in this. But what you don't realize is, hey, you've been in this space for 6 years or 8 years or however many years. Like, what is valuable to you and interesting to you? Man, it's flying right over the head of all these people that are following you. Like, they don't know what you're talking about, man. They're just trying to figure out how to make some money, like, in the next 2 weeks. So it's a weird thing, man, to feel like, hey, you're not relevant anymore, or you're not connecting with your audience anymore the way you used to because you're in a different spot. There's a difference between being a guy who's hungry, who just made his first $10,000 on the internet, and being a guy who's just like used to it, who just does it. It's just his job. He just does it all the time. He's used to it. This is how you do it. Boom, 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 boom. Those guys are in different places, and yet they're both still trying to connect with the same group of people. So I don't know. It's weird.
Connection is universal. I think you reach a certain point, though, which I've seen in my wife's online presence, particularly Instagram, where direct messages sometimes are out of control, and you spend an awful lot of time because so many people are initiating and expecting to maintain a conversation that sometimes the degree of connection actually can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
I'll add something to what you said, Cam. I think the other thing that people don't realize quickly, but they do once they start, until you start to teach, you need to teach to arrive at a new level of learning. And so until you really start to teach things to other people, you aren't really rising to those levels of understanding that you would normally. So, but
the good news is that Cam and I share a friend, Sam Crowley, who used to always say, you just want to stay one trick ahead of the dog.
Yeah.
And so by that, I just mean you learn something and then you can teach it, but you don't have to be a supreme expert in order to help people.
Not at all.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, you don't have to be an expert. A lot. What I like to tell people who are just getting started too is, hey, man, you don't really have to be an expert to be followed on the internet. Sure. You can take the role of the reporter. You can adopt the role of the reporter. I can talk about what this person was doing over here or what I've seen over here. I mean, heck, the evening news does that, don't they? Every single night, and we all watch them.
It's all curated content.
Yeah, so it's interesting. There's a couple different ways you can go about building a following or a list on the internet and still do pretty well. And the funny thing
is giving our take on something, it's something that's shared somewhere else, but this is what I have learned from it. or sometimes just bringing clarity to some old idea or some common idea that we use it on. Let me give you an example. Like a year or two ago, somebody posted on Facebook. Do you find it offensive if somebody uses profanity in their coaching and I said, no, I don't get offended if it's the right context. But let me tell you what term or what word offends me. And that's the word love. Because in the same breath, people say, oh, I love those shoes. I love my morning coffee. I love my daughter. Really? They're all the same thing. You want to use the same word for all of them? No, you really like your shoes. You really like your coffee, but you love your daughter. You love your brother. So let's be precise with our language. So when people use a word like that can have a lot of weight to it in other places that it's not the right place, I get offended. And that clarity came to me in a moment that I was having a conversation with my daughter. This is like 6 or 7, maybe 8 years ago. And this is one of those things that I was just talking, but something was coming through. So I was also hearing what I was saying. I'm sure you guys had those moments too, that you say something and you say, where did that come from?
Yep.
So it was like this. So I was telling her, hey, I love you. And I will always love you, no matter what happens. Whatever decision that you make, this love is there. But realize, this love between the two of us is just programmed in me. I cannot stop loving you. This is between a father-daughter kind of a thing. We have that relationship. Mm-hmm. On top of that, I also like you. And that's not programming. That's the person that you choose to be, and that's how you behave, and that's how we interact. There are many things that I do or you do that might piss the other person off. At that moment, we don't like each other. But generally, I really enjoy spending time with you. I really like you. There are so many parent, children, siblings that they love each other, but they don't really like each other, right? So that like that we have is so valuable. And guess what? We both get full credit for that. So that clarity and distinguishing between love and like and what we take from it and what's our role in it. As I was saying it, I realized this is very important. And I'm so glad that I'm sharing that with her. And many times we came back to it, and I reminded her, sometimes I sent her a text message, I love you and I like you. I think it's very important to tell our loved ones, things like that.
It isn't. I mean, I think that the love and like thing is an interesting distinction, because I think very often we love people, but we don't necessarily like a particular behavior or expression of that person.
Yeah.
So I guess that maybe that's the distinction that I would make. So, for example, I can say that I love my wife when she wears those wonderful shoes and brings me coffee. Just put it all together. So.
Is it the shoes or the coffee?
I prefer. Well, I like the shoes, but the coffee I like better than the shoes. I must admit to that.
Yeah.
So,
as long as we know our priorities,
I do. Family, duty. No, it's
coffee, onion.
Actually, yeah. Honor, family, coffee.
Yeah. I think you forgot tamales, Doc.
Okay, so let's see. What other things do I had a list. It's really funny. I started putting my Post-it notes together.
Wow.
For today. Well, no, because it hit me about an hour before we did this live that this is something that I actually do think about a lot. Like, what are my intentions? So if someone comes into my life for help, am I doing it because I'm expecting a reward, or am I doing it because I enjoy doing it and it's part of my nature?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that's the why. And, Tony Robbins, a lot of people talk about that. What is your powerful why? And does that propel you forward in your business? And as you make connections with people, do you have an ulterior motive, like you buy my stuff, or are you just genuinely interested in connecting with people? And I mentioned this, I think it was last week or so, that I just get really curious about folks, and I always try to find out, is there some little thing that connects us? Mm-hmm. And breaking down barriers, maybe without even thinking, breaking down barriers is actually, what can connect me to this person? But it's on autopilot at this point. And maybe that's from 30 plus years of dealing with patients and always looking for a way to connect with them so that they trust me to take care of them.
I'm that same way, for sure.
Yeah, I feel the same way, man. Try to find something I can connect with someone on that at least some level. So whenever I see him, there's something we can kind of talk about and just
Yeah.
we can have that connection there. Yeah, I feel that, man.
Like, how about them Browns?
Yeah, exactly. But that kind of puts people at ease, right? When they
UPS?
have-
What are we talking about here?
yeah.
Sorry,
I know. Back to
American football, not Canadian football.
I know.
But it could be a simple thing like, how many kids do you have? Are you a single mom? Are you? And so, I mean, I don't necessarily have to be a single mom to be empathetic and to ask questions and to feel a connection with someone who is different gender and who has kids of her own.
No doubt.
Because the problems are universal.
Absolutely.
Feelings of isolation, feelings of am I not good enough, self-worth, all these other things. There are certain universal feelings and emotional matrices. That's a terrible thing. I mean, but there's certain connections of emotions and beliefs that are universal in all human beings. And I think it's just a question of, can we find a way to tap into that? And why do we want to connect with people?
Yeah. So it's a deep question. It doesn't have an easy answer.
Deep thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't even have the same answer today that it might have tomorrow.
No.
So it's really interesting. So,
but in general, I think all of us have a desire, for example, to help people solve a problem, that we are solutions providers first, and then we have the sincere hope that someone will find enough value in what we are sharing to engage in a relationship, a business relationship, where we exchange value and we receive value in terms of remuneration, in terms of getting some money into our account. And because I've gotten tired over the years of giving out advice to a lot of my doctor friends for absolutely no cash whatsoever. And I realized that I was operating a nonprofit entity unintentionally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you guys.
You can give
read the
too
E-Myth?
much. So,
have you guys read the E-Myth?
I listened to it on audiobook a while back, man. It was good. It was real good.
Yeah, there is this part of it which is related to what we're talking about here. There is that exercise of primary aim, as in primary aim in life, and the exercise to find or get clarity or get closer to knowing what your primary aim is. The exercise is you write your own eulogy.
Yes.
Stephen Covey had me do that, decades and decades ago.
and I found it very, very impactful.
Yes.
What I like to hear in my funeral, and what's that gap between now and then, that person who is gone, and how I behave and contribute at this moment, and then bringing making that gap smaller and smaller, gives us a sort of like a north star kind of a tool for that connections and intentions and actions we take after that.
Sure.
It's our consciousness compass.
Yeah. Perfect term to explain it. Consciousness compass.
It's like, where the hell did that come from? I got to write it down now.
To trademark that one.
We got posterity.
What I like about Chris, he has many of those moments. I'm a genius moments.
Well, never mind.
Genius with a capital
We'll
J.
save the Mensa membership for another time. So, with respect to this, are there any final thoughts that any of you have with regarding intention and connection? And I mean, it does. I think intention kind of revolves around purpose, as you were talking about. What's your primary function? Is it, Kayvon, or what was it? Primary
Aim.
Aim. There we go.
And you mentioned that, and I'm looking at my whiteboard and what I wrote the other day, that it basically, long story short, starts with intention, it's followed by attention, and it's completed by taking action. So I like to, this is what I wrote down the other day, that either a client to be coachable, or for me to be the right kind of a service provider coach. Intention followed by attention to what we have an intention to, and taking action on that. So I don't know what you just said, Christopher, but that's what,
I think it's along the same lines. I know that, the popular term that I've heard nowadays is looking upon attention as the new currency. Getting people's attention seems to be one of the most valuable things that you can do.
I love how success. I love how whoever I'm talking to, like, success always comes back to action, no matter what. It always revolves back around to that. Have you guys noticed that? Like, all roads lead to Rome, and Rome is action, no matter what. Whether it's imperfect action, perfectly executed, imperfect action, it all leads back to action, doesn't it? Implementation, like, it all leads back to. Which kind of goes into what Kayvon was talking about. Yes, something.
This episode is what is it? Sponsored by Implementation Club.
Yeah, exactly.
The Implementation Club. No matter where you roam, action is your home.
It's funny. I do a little bit of a piece on law of attraction and attracting your perfect customer, and there's a couple key pieces to it. But I think two of the most key. The third part of it is the actual being that you need to take on to be the person that you want to be for whatever you're working toward to happen, or to attract that perfect client or customer or relationship, whatever it might be. But then the last thing is, what's the most attractive action that you can possibly take right now to take that first step towards it?
Yes.
I like attractive action. That's really good. That you that you want. But there's a deep desire.
Course. That sounds like a great training
book.
A book. That's the name of a book, man.
It's on YouTube. You can go watch it.
Attractive action.
I did a little piece. I have a friend of mine who walked me through this process many years ago. Loved it so much, and she certifies people in it. And so I went through that process, and now I've applied it to people learning video. Because what's the very first thing that you need to do? It's all about attracting your perfect customer, or the person who's most attractive to you, and the state you need to be in, and what you expect of yourself and them. And so it's a great first step to kind of get you focused in on what's important and getting started with that area. So
I love it.
It's one of the first
steps. Turn on the camera.
Yeah, that's important too.
That is important.
Super important. So,
all right. So I think we have come to, we just have a little bit of time left here. So we're going to take a look at this. I think we've been talking about creating a series, actually. We might do 4 things in a row. We might go a little bit deeper in this subject rather than try and tackle everything in one episode. And we'll take a look at that. We're in our planning and experimental stage, because all marketing is an experiment. So.
Sure is.
And with that in mind, if you'd like to play in the lab again, come on back next week, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, for the Marketing Happy Hour, and we will see you then.
See you guys.